especially in business. Sometimes you meet people in business where, you create a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Hello and welcome to the Chaos to Clarity podcast. My name is Maggie, aka your business bestie. I teach female coaches, speakers, and course creators to release procrastination and perfection so that they can get more done, book more clients, and have the time freedom that all entrepreneurs crave. This is not your typical business coaching podcast. We're talking about business, life, probably some wooey magic, and probably some singing or referencing song lyrics along the way. So if you're into business building, making more money, and getting a little bit of a mindset shift along with having a good laugh, you're definitely in the right place. I've grown 3 businesses from $0 to consistent 4 and 5 figure months over the last 15 plus years. And now I'm helping you do the same thing. It didn't happen overnight, and it certainly didn't happen without the help of others. They say it takes a village to raise children, and I believe it takes a village to grow a business as well. So in this podcast, you'll find people who help you grow your village, cheer you on, as well as holding you accountable. I'm so excited you're here, and I can't wait for you to listen to each episode. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Chaos to Clarity. I am Maggie, and today I have Tammeron on the podcast. I'm so excited to have this conversation with Tammeron. It's so good to have you on, and I can't wait for you all to meet her. So, Tammeron, can you tell us a little bit about you, who you serve, and how long you've been in business?
Well, first off, Maggie, I just want to say thank you for accepting me to be a guest on your podcast. It really is a privilege to be here. And I've only known you for a little amount of time, but I really like what you stand for. And we have a lot in common. So I really wanted to be a part of your entrepreneurial journey today as well. So yes, my name is Tammeron, and I am a spiritual alchemist, an astrologer, and an author. And I empower female entrepreneurs to flourish exponentially in their business using my secret astrology hacks. And for all you non-believers out there, I'm going to tell you right now, my woo-woo magic works.
I love that so much. And I think just leaning into more of that spirituality and the astrology is so mind-blowing. And just I'm just forever amazed at like the nuggets that we have talked about, the nuggets of wisdom. Just every time we're in a conversation together, there's just little things that I'm like, oh wow. Yes. Oh my gosh. Like I learned so much more about myself every time we talk. So it's just so exciting to have you on.
Oh, thank you. And actually, Maggie, you nailed it too. That's what astrology really is. If it's used like properly, like there's a lot of astrology, in the past, like, what's your sun sign? Is this a good day to go on a date or a good day to buy a lottery ticket? That's not really what astrology is. That's like the marketing stuff. But astrology in my journey and what it is intended, because it is an ancient science that has been around for a very long time, especially in Eastern traditions. But astrology, as a healer myself, has been the most powerful form of healing, because when you have someone study your birth chart or teach you about how to use your birth chart, which is I do, it's just so healing because it is your own soul's journey. It's got nothing to do with anybody else. So it can feel very profound when you use it in that way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And very just affirming that you're on the right path, or, just that like some of those little ticks about you, right? Like about yourself that you're like, oh man, like for me, I'm very stubborn. And that is very true in my chart.
That's who you are.
It's who I am, right? And
Yeah.
but also to learn that about myself and then learn to navigate it and learn to let others help me and guide me in this journey, I think that is very profound as well, right? Because like for me personally, being stubborn, I don't ever want anyone to help me because I can do it myself, right? But what happens if I let someone who is maybe more skilled help me? Things get done faster. Or, like with my kids, for instance, right? If I let someone else help me do some of these things, like watching my kids, for me, getting a babysitter for the kids and for me to have time here alone at home to work, that was really hard because I'm like, well, I
Yep.
should be able to do all this, but I can't, right? Because like it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to grow a business. So, as both of those things grow, I think it's so important to remember that.
Absolutely. And that is how we become empowered
Mhm.
when we recognize that we can help each other to grow and to run our businesses, because I do feel as an astrologer that more people are going to want to live a life that is more fulfilling and aligned with their soul. And so people are going to become a little bit more courageous to really take that risk, start a small business, even if you're already, having a job or whatever, is to really find something that allows you to just wake up every day feeling happy.
Mhm.
And when that happens, that's when the magic occurs, because we attract different things in our life. And so, just closing off on what you said, as a mother and a woman who still wants to have that identity and to have a business of some kind and still raise their children, it will take other people to help you create that. And we must know that that is okay.
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
is a different era from how our mothers grew up and how our grandmothers grew up. Like, this is the age of empowerment, and as an astrologer, I know why. However, it's hard to explain it to people, but, that is that balance and the win-win. I think that if we want it, I think the possibilities are there for us to achieve it, but we
Mhm.
won't be able to do it by ourselves.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that is a really great segue into my first question for you. And that is, what is something challenging that you have overcome in your business? And that this could be in the last, like recent, right? In the last year, it could be in the last 20 years, whatever. It doesn't matter. But what is something challenging that stands out that you've overcome?
That is a great question. And I'm a Capricorn, so, I push through the challenges. I mean, that's what Capricorns do. We take another
Uh-huh.
step, even if we don't know where the step is. Everybody's like, how'd you know to do that? And I'm like, I didn't know. I just did it. And that is, I think the biggest thing for me is, when I look back on when I started my first business after I became a certified health coach back
Mhm.
in like 2007, I was recently, out of a marriage and going through my divorce and, being a mom of two young kids in a small community. And it was pretty tough,
Mhm.
because of, picking up on what other people thought of me and stuff like that. Like, it was really hard to stay in that bubble and to say to myself, well, what other people say and think about me doesn't matter, because that is a journey to learn how to create that self-love container and to,
Right.
I think my big thing was reminding myself to just trust my intuition and to take that first step forward, even though I didn't know how it was all going to turn out.
Mhm.
And yet, all the things that I've learned and studied from taking business courses and trainings and always being educated, I honestly believe to be an entrepreneur is, we can be of service to others, but I feel we still need to be educated by other people, as a
Mhm.
role model as our business grows and develops. And nothing doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Every little piece of it is a part of the journey, and so that journey is worth the whole trip.
Yeah.
We're gonna learn a lot of different things, and I think for me, my biggest lessons, what some people have said to me is, "Boy, you know, You didn't go to business school or Harvard or go to college and university for business. You learned it by living it, getting your
Mhm.
butt kicked and finding that lesson and then, going, "Okay, I'll never do that again. I should have trusted my intuition." But, that is part of the journey. So, what I wanna say is that it's not a straight line. It's not an easy ride, but
Mhm.
I'd rather work for myself than work for somebody else
Mhm.
because there have been times where I have had to, like, get an additional part-time job or to get something, but I have my own ways of doing things and working with people, and I feel proud about that, and that's what I feel is how I can be that leader and that role model for other people and to pass down that knowledge.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that so much. I think that's so important as we're moving into this new, I mean, I guess for me it feels like a new age, right? Like, I mean, I'm almost 40, so, just moving into this newer way of thinking that like you don't necessarily have to trade dollars for things, right? There's a lot of like trade that you can do that doesn't involve like financial, like money exchange, right? And I think that is important as you're growing a business, right? Because in those beginning stages, you're like, well, I don't have a ton of extra income. So how can I do things when I need help and like not have to pay thousands for it, right? To know that you can lean on someone else and have those opportunities to maybe trade things, right? Like maybe it's our trade, like time for whatever, right? So to have those opportunities to grow your business in a way that feels sustainable to you, I think that is really important to remember as you're growing your business.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a good point too. Like there are gonna be times where you can trade as long as the trade is equal,
Right.
because you don't
Yep.
wanna create an imbalance. But one of the things that, I've noticed is that anytime I did pay for an actual coaching service from a business coach, I made sure I went to the classes. I made
Mhm.
sure I did homework. I made sure I got the true value for something I paid for.
Yep.
So that is a big thing, and I see a lot of people not doing that. So if you're
Mhm.
listening to this and you're buying something and not showing up, you need to do the work,
Right.
because you're not gonna be successful unless you really pay attention to that. And also is buy things you can afford,
Mhm.
to move your business forward. You don't need to spend like a $60,000-$70,000 coaching program, to get the results where you could, buy a coaching program or get something from another leader or a mentor that's affordable for you.
Mhm.
Like, it doesn't have to be like these big ticket items. There's all different types of coaches out there now. And whatever the
Right.
step is in your business, look at that. Is that your next goal?
Mhm.
If that's what you need in your business, then that's what you're aiming for. So there's lots of different coaching programs out there. So you really got to do your research, read the testimonials, do a little bit of that work behind the scenes, and then decide what you're going to do next.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think that as you do move forward in business, you start to see the value in leaders or people that you see as like a leader. You start to see and you start to notice where you align with those people. Um and then something interesting that I just recently listened to a podcast about was it was talking about like jumping into masterminds or coaching containers just because you want something more to do, but then never doing the work, right? This podcast I was listening to was talking about like assigning that mastermind or whatever you're joining a task, right? So if you're joining a mastermind, you have in your mind that, okay, it costs X amount of money. I want to create something out of this mastermind that is going to bring in that amount of money, right? So giving that mastermind or coaching container a task, like a vision to say, okay, like when I get out of this coaching container, I want to have written a book and I want to earn X amount of dollars, right? Or be on my way to earning that, so that the ROI comes back around, and like the brain science behind that, then, your brain, your mind is like, oh, okay, you created value from this. Okay, let's do it again, right? And creates that cycle of thought to be like, oh, I can create this. I can do this. I wanted this, I got that, and now I have that. So I think that's important to remember also, that because it has a big price tag doesn't necessarily mean it's the best opportunity.
That's right. Like big price tags to me are the one-on-one coaching,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and I've paid big money for one-on-one.
Yeah.
And I got exactly what I wanted. I needed someone to say something to me one-on-one so it could land.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting how there was a woman beside me at the same event. And this was like 12 years ago now, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a little bit older. And we connected at that event because, we were helping each other with homework. It was like one of these, we went to an event and we had to learn how to do things as we were at the event. So we walked away with something.
Yep.
And then we both got the high ticket coaching program, the one-on-one with the mentor. We had to fly back to California and whatever. So in total, that probably cost me over $13,000 Canadian.
Yep.
And I felt I got the value of that because I got that one-on-one time with the coach. Unfortunately, this other woman never felt she got the value of it. She did the work. She even did more follow-up and whatever. But one thing she said to me was, and I will always honor this, she said the best thing that ever came out of that big ticket item that I spent was the relationship I still have with you.
Yeah.
And I was like,
wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she was right, because also what I've noticed when I have been in paid coaching programs, it's not necessarily about finding clients.
Mm-hmm.
It's about sometimes the people you meet that are at that same level you're at in your business, even if your business are different, you don't know who's sitting beside you. And you don't know where these relationships are going to take you. And I will say that every coaching program that I have purchased, I've walked away with relationships of people from programs.
Yeah. That's so
It's still
awesome.
in my life.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool. I love that. And I think that's so huge as well, right? Like as you grow in whatever business you're in, to have those relationships where you can go talk to that person on a friendship level, where you're like, okay, I have this going on, like, can you just help me walk through this, right? Instead of like having to bring it to some big mastermind, right? Knowing that you have a friend that you can say, okay, this is what I'm feeling. Am I crazy?
Yeah. And that's exactly, you're picking up on, her and I, like when I finally went to become an astrologer during the beginning of COVID, that was my intuition telling me I had to become an astrologer. And then to go to astrology school to find out I must have been an astrologer in another lifetime. There is no way I could read an astrology chart in my first class.
Yeah.
Like, how did I know that? That was so profound. But she became my first beta test client.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
When I
cool.
wanted to turn it into what I have now. And
Mhm.
so it's an exchange. And so when she's doing things too. So, it really is. I think in times of whatever, like sometimes like pay attention to what's actually happening on another level,
Mhm.
because it always isn't sometimes what you think it is. There could
Right.
be something. And in astrology, sometimes you can see that too. Like it's going to be a time when you just might meet somebody that helps you on your journey, because relationships aren't always about, having babies and getting married, like especially in business. Sometimes you meet people in business where, you create a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So my next question for you is, what is one piece of advice that you would tell your younger self?
Oh, that's an easy question, Maggie. Olson. And it will always be this. Trust my intuition. And I actually have gotten into a practice, and so many healers. I mean, I'm a healer. I meet so many healers. You know, there's so
Mm-hmm.
many different types of healers out there, but when you're in this healing energy,
Yep.
you tend to attract a lot of people. And I've had so many people say to me, you have to write things down. You have to write things down. And as I became an astrologer and studied my chart, I realized I'm a writer. That
Yeah.
is predominant in my chart. Like I have something to say, and
Mm-hmm.
I need the other person to either hear what I have to say or allow me to be in reflection. So it's in my chart. So I have different things that I do, and I have things where I post on social media. It's part of my marketing. I have things that I share, you know, in conversations with other people. But then there's a part of me that is my private go-to journaling practice. Even though I have journals and it is part of my program to encourage people to use that, I still have my own private one. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I get these intuitive downloads. And for some reason, I just get visions, or I feel like I need to do something. And it may not be the right time yet, but I write it down. And I'm glad that I do, because it's validation for me that I have a strong sense of intuition that I need to trust more often. And I think that's a big movement. It's what's happening on the planet right now. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we create time in our day, even though it's chaotic and we have kids and families and people, that's where our biggest downloads are going to come from,
Mm-hmm.
is from our higher self, whatever you call that,
Yep.
God, love, the universe, or whatever, and to always use that as a tool to support you, whether it's in your business or even in your personal life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I agree so much. When you give yourself that time to be quiet, that's when those downloads, those intuitive like thoughts come popping into your mind. That's when I have the best ideas, that like all of a sudden I'm like hit with this idea of like, here it is. Here's something right here. Do
Yeah.
with it what
And
you will.
exactly. And what I have learned, and is the message I want to give people, if you're young and you still don't understand intuition, because you can be intuitive and see something about somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the same as having to trust this guidance that's coming through, that's only meant for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not meant for anybody else.
Right.
Is a lot of times intuition is not logical and
Yes.
will not make sense.
Uh-huh.
And that's why I write it down.
Yep. Absolutely.
Because at some point it will make sense.
Right. Yes. Yeah,
Maybe
for
not in
sure.
that moment, but trust it. And if you just
Mm-hmm.
have to write it down somewhere, just put it somewhere.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. That's so good. All right. So my last question for you today is, if you were a kitchen utensil or gadget, what would you be and why?
Well, as a foodie and somebody who's always in my kitchen, what would be my favorite utensil? Well, the first thing that came to my mind of intuition when you said that, Maggie, I'm going to run with that, because I'm going to eat my own cooking, was like a spatula, like a
Okay.
flipper. So
Yep.
in a frying pan, right? How you flip things,
Uh-huh.
right? Because that's probably the utensil I use the most. Because I'm always cooking.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so good. That's so good. Well, Tammeron, thank you so much. It's been so good to have you on the podcast. So I'll definitely drop all your information in the show notes, but tell everyone how they can connect with you.
Oh, thanks, Maggie. The best way to connect with me depends on where you're at. So I do have my women's online free community if you're on Facebook, because a lot of women are still on Facebook. And it's called Inner Lights Academy. It's my spiritual empowerment and self-help community. So just Google Inner Lights Academy if you're a woman and you want to learn about how astrology is, you know, affecting you on a personal and emotional level in your business or in your personal life, it's a great community because it's like an open book. Like we talk about what's happening each week. And then I also like to support people with the holistic remedies on how to stay emotionally balanced during the challenging times. And if you're an Instagrammer, it's Northern Alchemist 888.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was so great to talk to you today. Have an amazing day, and I can't wait to connect with you on the interwebs.
Thanks so much, Maggie.
Wow, what a great interview. Thank you so much for showing up here on the Chaos to Clarity podcast. Again, my name is Maggie. I'm so excited to connect with you. You can find all of the information, all of the links below in the show notes for today's interview. And I hope you have the best day ever.